getting busy. Whoop, there it is, hit me. Upside down and inside out, I'm about to show all you folks what it's all about. Now it's time for it to get on the mic and make this motherfucking party hot. I'm taking it back to the old school, cause I'm an old fool who's so cool. If you wanna get down, I'ma show you the way. There it is, let me hear you say. There it is. Come on, y'all. There it is. A little louder. There it is. Come on, y'all. There it is. Louder. There it is. Come on, y'all. There it is. A little louder. There it is. Come on, y'all. There it is. Woo. Shaka, 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 shaka. Woo. Shaka, 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 shaka. Woo. Shaka, shaka, shaka. Woo. Shaka. Point blank, gin and juice I drink and bent as I puff on dank. Rock the mic, I crave skin rip. Find a honey dip to dip it in. Slam dunk it, stick it, flip it and ride that B-double-O-T-Y, oh my. Ooh, that's it, come on, whoop. There it is, I'm done. Whoop. Come on, whoop. Louder. Whoop. Give it to me. Whoop. Come on. Get louder. Whoop. Let it. Whoop. Come on. Whoop. Some say I'm crazy cause I'm pushing up daisies. The underground sound that you have found amazing, outstanding, demanding, commanding you people dancing. Flow to the fly from the school of bold. Hardcore, keep the folklore right. 3 to the 2 and 1 mic check. Man, skill flow ill on the mess of steel. That's the grill of the microphone I just killed. Party people.
Hoop, there it is on the air. For the next hour, Steve Russell and ESPN basketball analyst Mark Wise will hit the hard court as they look back on the week that was and look forward to the week that is in college basketball. Hoop, there it is, courtesy of Silverback Concrete, Titan MRI, and QC Kinetics. It's full court press time. Here are Steve and Mark.
Hello and welcome once again to another edition of Hoop. There it is. I'm Steve Russell alongside Mark Wise. We're going to talk hoops with you either live or whenever you get your podcast. You get to listen to us, and we always appreciate it when you do. We got a lot of ground to cover today because we're going to head into the month of February here, Mark, and things start to get interesting in terms of league races and teams start to separate themselves a little bit.
Right.
But I got to ask you.
Yeah.
You had both the Gator games last week. You couldn't have two different games as you had with the Gators this week.
Yeah, let's go back to Wednesday night first. I said this at the very end. Sometimes you have to win games that you didn't deserve to win, and if you're going to be an elite team. And I think that's where Florida is. I wouldn't put them in Tier 1, but I certainly would put them nationally. But I would put them in Tier 2. They didn't lead until the last 4 seconds of the game. I thought their big guys got worked over pretty good by Colin Murray-Boyles, and early in the game, Pringle as well. And so Florida played uphill the entire game. And South Carolina makes 5 threes a game in league play. They made 9. So Florida, for whatever reason, wasn't connected defensively. And then I thought South Carolina's defense on all the ball screen action basically blew up Florida. They just never got into a rhythm. Thankfully, Todd Golden switched up the defense and went to the 1-2-2. Now, you can only play that for most teams. Memphis is the exception, but most teams, you have to score. So even when they got to the free throw line, it was important to make the second free throw so that they could establish the press. And then Carolina's point guard challenged. There's no question about that. And they started coughing the ball up. So I called it a game of crazy eights. I was almost right because I said South Carolina had to make 8 or more threes in the game, and they had to be plus 8 or more in points in the paint. And they would have been if they hadn't turned the ball over, because all those steals that Florida had, those are where you just go in and dunk the ball. Those are points in the paint.
Yeah.
But from what we traditionally think of as points in the paint, South Carolina dominated.
So Florida steals one on the road and dominates at home.
Yeah, same problem, different opponent. Georgia, the turnovers early, I keep saying this on broadcast. There's no defense for turnovers. There's no defense for a pick six. And Georgia I think they had 14 turnovers in the first half. I mean, they made 5 threes in the first half. I think they made 4 of their first 5 3-point. So they shot the ball even better than they've been shooting. That's been their struggle. And the most telling stat of all was they had played 4 true road games. The most anybody had scored against them in the first half was 26 points out of those 4 games. So their defense has traveled. They're good defensively. And yet Florida was able to hang a 51 burger on them. So dominating performance from start to finish. One game you probably didn't deserve to win, and one game you dominated. Here's the thing I would say about the Wednesday night game. It's not half of a W. Okay? And Saturday's game, you don't get 2 W's. So you have to understand and handle success, and I don't know that Florida has really done that really well because they seem to follow a really good performance with a slow starting performance.
Let's talk about Michael Hanlockton a little bit. There were rumors he was going to play. He ended up not playing. I don't know what effect that had, if any, but a little unusual.
Yeah, it was. I was like everybody else when I got up on game day and saw that he was, it's out there that he's going to play, because I went scrambling. I mean, now I've got to add him to my board. What did he do? The 108 offensive rebounds, second in the country in terms of offensive rebounding rate. The only thing I'm going to say about that is at the end of Georgia's shoot-around on game day, Mike White was talking to us. Todd Golden came up and explained to him what had happened, that they weren't trying to sabotage in any way the injury report and whatnot, and that he would not play. What was said beyond that, I am not privy to say that. That's privileged information.
Okay, don't forget, we're broadcasting from Coach's podcast room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. You can watch us live on Facebook, YouTube, later on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, or any of the 39 platforms you can find your favorite podcast. Like, follow, and subscribe. You don't miss an episode. We are taking questions and comments on Facebook Live. Let us know in the comment section, and we will take your questions for Mark. All right, let's do our questions of the week, and they are brought to you by Davis Chevrolet, your premier North Central Florida dealer of Chevrolet. Send your questions to questions@gatorshows.com. Okay, now here's the questions. Got a lot of paper, but that's good. Daniel in Gainesville. I know this is a basketball show, but how about Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid in yet another? So that's the first question out of the blocks here.
Yeah, I was actually, I found myself rooting for Buffalo just from an underdog perspective. Here's the thing I will say about that, related to basketball. Everybody's now talking about, well, what does Buffalo need to do to get over the hump? If you play in AFC championship games on the road consistently and you're not able to win, I'm not sure that's a hump. I go back to the 2014 Florida team who went to 3 Elite Eights. And in 2014, I kept getting asked, well, what does Florida have to do to get over the hump? I mean, you've just, in the NCAA tournament, you've just won 3 games, 3 straight years. What hump are you talking about? I mean, I get it. The Final Four has a magical ring to it. But just getting to the Elite Eight is so freaking good in this day and age of college basketball. That it might be 10 years later, that has not changed. As a matter of fact, I think it's harder. I think it's much harder in this day and age of parity, the COVID redo, the transfer portal, paying players, much harder to do.
Okay, I'll answer it in the football way here real quick. I think there's some Chiefs fatigue for a lot of people.
Sure.
But the thing that I think is vastly overlooked here is the Chiefs coach.
Oh,
He quietly,
how about that first drive? I mean, they just carved them up.
he's one of the best. He's now, I believe he's tied with Belichick for the most playoff games ever.
I think the coach carves them up early and Mahomes carves you up late, is the way I would put that.
So there you go, Daniel, from a hoops perspective and a football
I
perspective.
watched.
Playing his former team that fired him.
Yeah, that's right. It's going to be interesting.
In the Super Bowl.
Yes,
Yeah.
in the Super Bowl. Phoebe in Gainesville, Gators 18-2, tie for best record, scored 70 points or more in 24 consecutive games. All signs showing a run in March. How good of a coach is Todd Golden?
Again, he's the same coach he was a year ago when he took the team to the NCAA tournament. Is Bruce Pearl a better coach this year? Well, if he is, it's because he's got better players. Okay, and the same is true with Todd Golden. I mean, it doesn't mean you're a bad coach if you have a losing record. I mean, John Calipari's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I mean, they are really struggling.
All right, got a live question here from Art. Mark, when Florida beats Tennessee and Auburn, will you move them into Tier 1? Auburn didn't look elite this weekend.
Well, then, yeah, I got to get you. Art, is that right? Art,
yes.
you got to take your orange and blue glasses off for just a second. The Auburn-Tennessee game was a rugby match. I mean, it was just points were hard to come by. Auburn just happened to win. And I'm excited because they'll remain the number one ranked team later today, and I have them Wednesday night. So, I mean, yes, Art, to answer your question, if they win at Tennessee, beat Auburn, they'll be in Tier 1. How about that?
There you go. Judge in Gainesville. Gators shot 60% in the first half against Georgia. Was this the best half of basketball in 20 games?
The best half of basketball? Ooh, I'd have to think about that. The first half against Tennessee was pretty spectacular as well.
Sebastian in Seawalk. Where is Seawalk?
I don't know. Is it in Florida?
I guess. Gators came out hot against Georgia with 20 steals. Was the plan not to repeat what happened the previous week against Missouri? Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the start. I mean, if you talk to Todd Golden or anybody, they talked about, and this is not belittling Missouri. If you haven't seen Missouri play, Missouri is legit. But they didn't feel like they came out with the right kind of energy. I felt the same way in the South Carolina game. Well, what do they have in common? They were games after Florida won some big games. So, again, the renter's mentality of handling success, very important in this league this year.
Carter in Gainesville winning at Carolina after being down 15 is a sign of a championship team. Can you see the Gators in the final?
Well, let me ask you, if the flip was reverse and Florida had lost the lead the way South Carolina, would you say Florida, is not capable of winning games in the NCAA tournament? That was a one-game deal. Every game has a life of its own. Here's the thing that I would challenge everybody as a fan. Try to not let the outcome of the game dictate how your team played. I mean, Florida won the game and played really poorly. That didn't change just because they won the game. They won the game Saturday and dominated that game. Doesn't mean Georgia's a bad team. So,
Wes in Gainesville, you called both Gator games last week without any bias.
well,
How do you define this team?
you know, they're so good in the backcourt. I think Will Richards evolving into a much better. I think he's playing the best basketball of his career. I think he's more well-rounded. He can do more things. He can impact winning in more games, in more different ways. So I think him getting better, I think the addition of Elijah Martin has made that three-headed backcourt elite. I would put them up against anybody in the league, anybody in the country, I think. I'd have to, do a lot of research on that. Then add in an older fourth guy in Aberdeen who's playing really well. So great production and depth in the backcourt. That's pretty special.
Live comment here from Johnny. Have you discussed Micah yet? Joined in late. Apologies.
Yeah, we did. You go back and watch us again.
Yeah. Tucker in Gainesville. Mike White looked frustrated, argued with the refs numerous times. He also got booed when introduced. Did the Gators and fans get into his head?
Well, heck no.
No.
He was upset with the officials, and I would have been also. Somebody, Surreal, I think, got called for an clear out in the lane. Georgia's got the ball and driving, and he got called for clearing out a path, if you will, for somebody.
To the lane, sure.
And they call offense. Florida does that about 5 times a game. Okay, that's why he was upset. I get it. Did the fans get in his head? No. And the reason he was frustrated was because his team turned the ball over a lot.
Yeah. He'd been frustrated if they played in
Yeah.
Oshkosh.
Yes.
Carmichael in Jacksonville. SEC games last Tuesday, won by teams that were down the entire game to the last seconds, was just the craziest day in SEC history.
Yeah, it actually was Wednesday night, and the reason I know that is because it included our game. But the 3 teams that won on Wednesday night, now think about this. Each game's 40 minutes long. My math will tell us that means a total of 120 minutes. And in those 3 games, the winning team trailed more than 119 of a possible 120 minutes.
Wow.
Almost impossible to do. And then on Saturday, I think Texas went ahead of A&M with 3 seconds to go in the game. First time in the game. They trailed the entire game.
Tom in Gainesville, Golden not taking a timeout in the last minute of the Carolina game proved to be the right call. When does a coach make that decision and why?
Well, he did take a timeout after the 3-point hammer shot by Will Richard. If you're talking about end-of-game situations, so we're talking about the last 15 seconds, because the Richard 3, I think, also happened in the last minute. If you're talking about end-of-game situations, I think there are a couple of things at play. Number one is you have to have older players that you trust. Number 2, you better have practiced it a lot. Okay, we're going to put 15 seconds, so I'm not calling the timeout. As a matter of fact, I'm not calling the play. I just would stop the action in practice and go, 15 seconds, you're down 1, here's the ball, go, play. But you have to work at that so that players tend to panic. Like I thought South Carolina panicked a little bit in response because they had 4 seconds and the Fran Fraschilla rule, 1 dribble per second. There's no reason you couldn't have gotten a little closer there.
Sanders and Ocala. Who implemented the press during the second half? It was a genius, and that person deserves the game ball.
Well, it's genius because it worked.
Works. That's right.
Yeah. But they did play it again on Saturday. So I think you're going to see against Georgia. So I think you're going to see the 1-2-2 from Florida's. And I don't have Florida, or at least I don't have them through the end of February. So it'll be something for people and fans to keep up with.
Alvin in Gainesville. Martin played his best defense last week in both wins. Has he become our best defensive player?
Yeah, he always was.
Brian in Clearwater. 3 of the next 4 on the road, including another showdown against the number 1 team. Should we be happy with 2 wins?
Again, I'm going to say this one more time. Every game has a life of its own. So if you're asking me, would you be happy with 2 out of the 4 with 3 of the next 4 on the road? Probably, but who are the 2 road games?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the 2 road games, I know the next one's at Tennessee. Florida has a bye midweek. They don't play. Then they play at Tennessee, and I think the next road game is Auburn.
I love this one.
If you got 2 out of 2, out of the
Wow.
4. I get it, but
Yeah. Ryan in Jacksonville, I love this one. I know the answer, too.
okay.
How convenient is it for you to call an ESPN game in Gainesville and travel by car 15 minutes to the arena?
That's a very complex answer because it's very convenient, but it's also, there's being local, there's a lot of pressure. I think Jimmy Dykes, living in Fayetteville, has pressure when he calls Arkansas games. I think, Dane Bradshaw, when he does Tennessee games, I think there's pressure involved in that. It's not just me. But yeah, and from a travel standpoint, because I leave tomorrow morning for LSU, so.
Who's having some injury issues?
Yeah, they're they lost the big guy Reed in the non-conference to a knee injury. Now a double-figure scoring guard, Victorious Miller, is out. And yet the other night at Alabama, it's 40-40 at the half. I went back and watched it. They've got a guy who had 14 rebounds in the first half.
Ooh. Speaking of LSU, Mark in Gainesville, South Carolina's women 19-1, 8-0 in the
Yeah.
league, dominated LSU. Is Dawn Staley the best basketball coach coaching today?
Again, just because of that doesn't make her the best. I mean, I think she and Kim Mulkey both. I mean, Kim Mulkey's won 5 titles, I think, or 4 titles or whatever it is. I will say this about that game. They did not dominate. They played in front after the first quarter. The first quarter of the LSU women game against South Carolina is as good a quarter as I have seen all year.
Really?
I think the score was 23-21. Those ladies were hooping. And then the game, like a lot of men's games, it gets bogged down into the half court. There was a third quarter run where South Carolina made back-to-back steals after making a bucket, and the lead went from 2 to 10. And then Carolina played in front the rest of the game.
Patrick in Gainesville, you and Mike Morgan have great chemistry.
Oh,
Love when you
thanks.
call Gator games. How many games have you done together? Do you get to pick who your partner is?
No, Mike and I have the two people I have worked the most with over the years. Roy Philpott and I have worked a lot of games, and Mike and I worked the last 2 years. We've worked a lot. I'm actually not with Mike on Wednesday. I'm working with Kevin Fitzgerald, who I've worked 4 or 5 times with. So I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Mike and I work hard at it. We spend a lot of, like everybody's job, you don't always see where the sausage is being made. So, we work at it. There's a lot of emails. There's a lot of conversation about where we want to take the game. And then we have to allow for the game to take us somewhere. And for instance, I'll give you this example. This is not giving away state secrets, but South Carolina, Florida, you kind of have to work at, okay, if this goes south, what are we going to talk about?
Because of the matchup.
Because of the matchup.
Right.
Then you've got Florida, Georgia. Wow, this is going to be an exciting game. And then it gets
goes
off
south.
the rails. So you have to be prepared. That is the one thing I said. I did a lot of E3 games back in the day at USF and UCF, and I mean a lot of bad games. A lot of bad games. But that taught me a lesson that you have to be prepared for whatever direction the game takes you. And then the other thing that I learned that Al McGuire, the former coach at Marquette, used to say every time, that each game is like a train stopping at a station. It's only going to stop there one time. So that game is only going to be played one time ever. That game is only going to be played one time ever. And as a broadcaster, that helps me understand that I need to give everything I have into every broadcast because it's the only time it's going to be played.
It's true. Lastly, William in Lake City, Clayton broke Frazier's record of consecutive three-pointers. Were you broadcasting when he did it?
Yeah, because it happened actually on Wednesday night. I don't know that he made more than one because I don't know that Florida made very many. But yes, I've kidded about this because, and Lee Humphrey laughs about this because Lee ended at, I think Frazier's at 41, So Clayton now is at 43, but Lee ended at 38 or 39. And the only reason Lee's number's not higher is because he ran out of eligibility.
Ran out of time.
Ran out of time. And those two teams, those back-to-back title teams, that was the end of their run.
All right, those are our questions of the week, brought to you by Davis Chevrolet, your premier North Central Florida dealer of Chevrolet. Send your questions to questions@gatorshows.com. Our quality play of the week, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. When you need a quality plumber, rely on the same company Gainesville's trusted since 1984. Quality Plumbing, their name says it all. Play of the week.
It's not really the play of the week, more like a situation that happened in the Houston-Kansas game. So in the first overtime, Kansas is ahead by 6 with 18 seconds to go and shooting 2 free throws by a 74% free throw shooter. Well, you kind of know what's coming, okay? He misses both. Houston comes down, makes a 3. Now there's 8 seconds to go, down 3. Kansas takes a timeout, then throws the ball away. Houston makes a shot. Now we're tied. It goes to the second overtime, and Houston wins. There's, what does Van Pelt call it, bad beats? That is a bad beat.
That's a horrible
That's a
beat.
Horrible beat.
Yeah, bad one. We'll take a break. We'll come back. Much more hoop. There it is to come. Stay with us.
I'm tired of you living in pain, and I want you to get real lasting relief from chronic pain in your knees, back, shoulders, and hips. QC Kinetics can get you moving again with cutting-edge regenerative treatments with no drugs, no downtime, and no surgery. Stop putting it off. Call now and schedule your free consultation. Call QC Kinetics now in Gainesville, Ocala, and the Villages. 352-400-4550. 352-400-4550.
I'm David Steele, voice of the Gators in 1984, when Brian Nasworth began a new journey, starting Quality Plumbing.
And I'm Mick Hubert. When I was the voice of the Gators, I called championship games, while Quality Plumbing was becoming champions for the Gainesville area.
I'm Sean Kelly, the voice of the Gators, as Quality Plumbing celebrates its 40th anniversary. For years to come, I'll be calling games, and Quality Plumbing will continue to be the #1 plumbing company for Gator Nation.
Crystal Air and Water, we've got a winning offer for you. As you switch off the AC and turn on the heat, why not upgrade to a new system? Take advantage of our amazing financing options. You can get a 12.99 fixed rate for 5, 10, or 15 years, or you can score big with 12 months, same as cash financing. Don't fumble on comfort this season. Crystal Air and Water has you covered. Call them today at 352-333-0460 or visit acpenguin.com.
License number CMC 1249384.
You might know that State Farm agent Ruz Agra has great service. He's your good neighbor after all, but did you know that State Farm has surprisingly good rates too? Yep, that's right. Along with good neighbor service, State Farm agent Ruz Agra has surprisingly great rates for everyone in Gainesville and North Central Florida. So call State Farm agent Ruz Agra at 352-240-1779 for your surprisingly great rates today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to State Farm underwriting requirements.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Over 2 decades, Miapa has been a staple in Alachua County. Start your day right at Miapa, where fast and affordable authentic cuisine awaits.
We're known for serving the best Cuban coffee.
Our secret is in every sip and every bite, bringing the flavor of our culture straight to your palate. Everyone is welcome at Miapa Latin Cafe. Visit us at one of our locations and let us take you on a journey full of flavor. Miapa Latin Cafe, where every bite is a taste of tradition.
Asking you to join us at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill for our next private label release. You can add Lugo's Risky Rum to your collection of Spurrier's private label bourbon and rye whiskey on your top shelf of your liquor cabinet. So join about 125 of your friends upstairs at Visor's Rooftop Bar from 6 to 9 on January 30 for this exclusive release, featuring a special menu of delicious Spurrier menu items and the specialty rum cocktails.
Welcome back to Hoop. There it is. Silverback Concrete builds firm foundations for generations. You stand on it. We stand by it. Silverback Concrete. Alongside that guy, Mark Wise, I'm Steve Russell. Thank you for tuning in to Hoop. There it is this week. Question here for you. Is Richard ready for the NBA? And coming back, was that the best thing that happened to him?
I have not seen his name in any NBA mock draft in the 2 rounds that the NBA now drafts. I'm pretty sure the way he's playing, he will be invited to a summer camp team and maybe play in Vegas in the summer league, and that's where he's going to have to make his mark.
Okay.
By the way, I wanted to ask you, are you not enjoying this extended basketball weather?
Yes, I am.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, you're never going to get a complaint from me because in August...
we know what's coming.
Because in August, I'll be pining for all of this. So, no, you'll never... And anybody who's listening, it's not because I grew up in the North. It's not that at all. You can always put on another jacket. Hard
Layer.
to get cool.
Layer up.
All right. Coach of the Week brought to you by International Diamond Center. Don't settle for a knockoff diamond when you can get the best diamonds at the best prices. For quality, selection, and value, International Diamond Center, the official jeweler of the Florida Gators.
Well, how about if you're the head coach at Vanderbilt and in consecutive Saturdays you beat Tennessee and Kentucky at home? Now, here's another thing I want to ask. For all these athletic directors who complain about the money, if you had a 1-court storming and you had to pay a fine, are you not caring that the 2nd court storming is going to cost you $500,000? But that's what happened at Vanderbilt. Anyway, I got off track. Mark Byington at Vanderbilt doing a bang-up job. They're in the NCAA tournament. I don't think anybody saw that coming. He had a complete roster redo, taking over the job from James Madison. And in my way of thinking, we're just entering the 2nd third of league play. So we've got a long way to go. But if you're asking me coach of the year in the SEC, I think 3 guys stand out right now. 2 for the same reason, Mark Byington and Dennis Gates. I don't think anybody saw Missouri as good as they are. And then you have to put Bruce Pearl in that conversation.
Okay. By the way, if you're watching live, you can ask us a question. Campus USA chat. Just let us know. We'll answer your questions for you. All right. Now, we're going to do our next segment. I just had to get to it here. It is Team of the Week, brought to you by Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance. State Farm agent Ruse Ogre is your go-to agent in Gainesville and North Central Florida for the service you deserve at the price you want.
Well, what is the old dog, new tricks thing, right?
Can't teach an old dog new tricks, yes.
Well, the old tricks are pretty good at Michigan State right now because they're 8-0 in the Big Ten. They've won 12 in a row. I don't think Tom Izzo has forgotten how to coach. And everybody knows how good he is in March. So that's a team to keep your eye on moving forward as Illinois and Purdue have faltered a little bit. Michigan has faltered a little bit here lately.
I watched their game the other day.
Yeah.
And
they're scoring.
I'm just going to say that. They are scoring the basketball, something his last few teams have had trouble doing.
Here's what I want to ask you. Tell me a team that we've talked about in the last 5 years that has gotten a lot better, and we go, well, they've gotten a lot better because of their defense.
Right.
Actually, Florida might be the only one that comes to mind.
Yeah, because it wasn't
in the last 2 years.
Because it wasn't real good to start.
We don't talk about teams. Teams don't make quantum leaps because they got better defensively.
No,
they just don't.
No, and you're not. Defense is important.
Yes,
it is, but you're not going to consistently win games. 60-58. You're not.
Iowa State is elite this year. They've always been elite defensively, so why are they elite this year?
Right.
Because their offense is much better.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'm right with you there. We'll take a break. We'll come back. Much more hoop. There it is to come. Stay with us.
Silverback Concrete is a family-led team of heavy concrete specialists that builds commercial structures for contractors who expect unrivaled quality, including the head ball coach's restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grille. You only have one chance to make a building that holds up to the highest standards through all kinds of weather. Visit silverbackconcrete.co to see why they're the #1 choice in the Southeast. You stand on it, we stand by it. Silverback Concrete's got your back.
Fans, don't get sacked by high prices. Join the winning team at Davis Gainesville Chevrolet. This week at Davis, score big savings on our all-star Chevy selection. The most awarded brand for new vehicle quality, like Chevy's MVP, the new Silverado, with low 2.8 financing and no payments for 90 days. Plus, we're tackling high prices on the area's best GM-certified pre-owned inventory. So join the winning team at Davis Gainesville Chevrolet on North Main Street.
The most important thing I learned from my father was work ethic and integrity. Never veer away from integrity, even if it costs you money.
International Diamond Center owner Keith LeClaire.
The core value for IDC is to protect the customer.
That means offering the largest selection, uncompromising quality, the strongest warranties, and honest guidance from experts who are not paid on commission. International Diamond Center at Celebration Point. Online, shopidc.com.
Crystal Air and Water, we've got a winning offer for you. As you switch off the AC and turn on the heat, why not upgrade to a new system? Take advantage of our amazing financing options. You can get a 12.99 fixed rate for 5, 10, or 15 years, or you can score big with 12 months, same as cash financing. Don't fumble on comfort this season. Crystal Air and Water has you covered. Call them today at 352-333-0460 or visit acpenguin.com.
License number CMC 1249384.
Is your bank dropping the ball, not playing with heart or skill? Then you need to check out the scouting report on Campus USA Credit Union. That's a 5-star recruit if I've ever seen one. Campus has it all, like great rates and products, friendly service, and smart game plans for you and your money. So why not put some star power in your financial life? Visit campuscu.com or any campus service center today.
Honey, can I recruit you to take the garbage out?
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, two things haven't: our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured.
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
And our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
I'm tired of you living in pain, and I want you to get real lasting relief from chronic pain in your knees, back, shoulders, and hips. QC Kinetics can get you moving again with cutting-edge regenerative treatments with no drugs, no downtime, and no surgery. Stop putting it off. Call now and schedule your free consultation. Call QC Kinetics now in Gainesville, Ocala, and the Villages. 352-400-4550. 352-400-4550.
At Titan MRI and Imaging, you'll visit the only locally owned and operated MRI imaging center in town. Start feeling better today. It's your choice. TitanMRI.com. I covered so many turnovers last week, I have one of my own there.
Yes, the official says this way. By the way, broadcasting from Coach's podcast room with Spurrier's Gridiron, Grille, and Celebration Point. You can watch us live on Facebook, YouTube, listen later. YouTube podcast, Apple podcast, Spotify. We are on 39 platforms where you can find your favorite podcast and listen to us. Follow and subscribe so you can not miss an episode. We're taking questions and comments on Facebook Live. Let us know in the comment section. We will get to your questions and really appreciate you tuning in. It is so much fun to do this with Mark. Sub of the Week, brought to you by Miapa Latin Cafe. Discover 11 delicious Cuban sandwiches at Miapa Latin Cafe with 5 locations in Gainesville and Alachua. You're never far from the best Cuban food north of Miami.
Steve, remember when Missouri came to town and Caleb Grill made the 27 threes against Florida?
Yeah.
Well, he's at it again because on the weekend against Ole Miss, off the bench, went for 25, was 6 of 10. From bonus land, one of the reasons why they won. One of the big reasons why Missouri is one of the surprise teams, not only in the league, but in the country. They're top 25 in the net right now. So big time win for them. I've got them twice coming up 3 weeks, I think.
I try to look at the box scores after the SEC games are finished.
Right.
And I saw that, and I thought of you
yes.
because of what you say, right? How nice is it to look down your bench?
Oh, yeah.
And go,
go get me 20. Yeah, not many guys can do that.
No.
Trust me.
Games to look for, brought to you by Florida Victorious. Game-changing plays, life-changing impact. Florida Victorious, the proud partner of the Florida Gators on and off the court.
A real interesting match in the league on Tuesday night when Kentucky goes to Tennessee. Both those teams coming off hard-fought losses, if you will. Tennessee with the rugby match loss, 2-point loss to Auburn, and Kentucky got outscored. I think Vandy scored the last 8 points of the game to beat the Cats in Nashville. So that's an interesting – and you talk about opposite strengths. Because Kentucky's really good offensively and Tennessee's really good defensively. Something has to give. And along the same lines, Texas at Ole Miss on Wednesday night. Texas is starting to climb, not only in the league standings, but starting to accumulate quad one wins. When I had them 10 days ago in Oklahoma, they had 0 quad one wins. I think they have 3 now. Thursday night, Memphis is at Tulane, and the American Conference is interesting from this perspective. Tulane will be one of the teams that could beat Memphis. But if I'm in the American, Memphis is the best team by far, and they have 5 quad one wins. They're going to get in the NCAA tournament. But there's the only way that the American, in my view, gets a second team in is if somebody else wins the tournament and then Memphis is the at-large. Well, we're going to find out in games like this, can anybody beat Memphis in the American? Because if you can't beat them at home, chances are you're not going to beat them in the tournament. Friday night, Dayton at St. Louis. A great matchup in the A-10. Saturday, Florida at Tennessee. So Tennessee in a week will have played at Auburn, Kentucky at home, Florida at home. That's the league. I mean, that's what it is. Missouri at Mississippi State on Saturday is a big-time game. Auburn at Ole Miss. And then the game that never fails to deliver, no matter who's playing well and who's not, Carolina Duke, edition part 1, Saturday night.
I want to ask you something, and I don't want to delve into the whole officiating thing, but any fan...
Okay, the key word there was...
Yes, any fan... when you know Tennessee is going to play Auburn.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You don't have to be, you know what kind of a game that's likely to be.
Yeah.
So do officials understand that? That's what I don't understand. You can't predetermine, obviously, how you officiate, but you know it's going to be that kind of a game, and yet...
Yeah, I think it's a complicated answer.
It is.
The officials do meet before every game. There's a lot of conversations and emails and discussions and video review with Mike Eads, the supervisor of officials in the SEC, or the SEC is a part of a conglomerate that he oversees. So there is review, but my biggest issue is right now in our game, the officials are only calling the fouls that are egregious enough. And if you're going to do that, then you're going to continue to there's no such thing as freedom of movement. And all you would have to do is go to a practice or go to a shoot-around, as I have to do for every game, and listen to the number of times either the head coach or the assistant coaches teach fouling. And what do I mean by that? Okay, there's a cut on this play. They're going to run a cutter through the lane, so you're going to step up and tag him. Well, tag is code for you're going to chuck him, okay? Or when he goes up to set a screen, you're going to push him and let that screen blow up right there. It's going on all the time, and the only way we're going to correct that is if we call more fouls.
Okay. Baller of the Week brought to you by Crystal Air and Water. Family-owned and operated Crystal Air and Water services air conditioners, furnaces, boilers, and more for Gainesville, Alachua, and nearby areas. We're not comfortable till you are.
One of the surprise teams in the ACC, in my view, is Stanford. They were picked very low. They have a 7-foot Frenchman, 7'1", Maxime Reynaud. I hope I'm doing that correctly. This is the second time I've mentioned him. He's averaging a double-double, 20.7, 11.7 each night. One of the reasons why they are getting it done. And he is I think they just beat Florida State on the weekend on the West Coast. So one of the things, and this will lead me into a conversation that we had, I think, a couple of weeks ago. I'm curious to see how the Florida States of the world not only play out west, but have to come back east for their next home game. Everybody wants to talk about the West Coast teams going east because it's a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. But the teams on the East Coast will also have to travel back east but the difference is everybody on the East Coast only makes one West Coast swing. And going east is always more difficult on the body. Those West Coast teams, Mick Cronin's been very outspoken about this. They're going east all the time. I mean, they have to make 3 or 4 East Coast swings.
And from his perspective, I get it.
Yeah, no, but hey.
Well, be careful what you ask for.
Well, not only that, but the reason you made this decision is
dollars. Exactly. So that's what I get from a coach.
Your program's well funded now.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I get from a coaching, I get it, but you're spot on. We'll take a break. We'll come back. More Hoop There It Is to come. Stay with us.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
The most important thing I learned from my father was work ethic and integrity. Never veer away from integrity, even if it costs you money.
International Diamond Center owner Keith LeClaire.
The core value for IDC is to protect the customer.
That means offering the largest selection, uncompromising quality, the strongest warranties, and honest guidance from experts who are not paid on commission. International Diamond Center at Celebration Point. Online, shopidc.com.
I'm David Steele, voice of the Gators in 1984, when Brian Nasworth began a new journey, starting Quality Plumbing.
And I'm Mick Hubert. When I was the voice of the Gators, I called championship games, while Quality Plumbing was becoming champions for the Gainesville area.
I'm Sean Kelly, the voice of the Gators, as Quality Plumbing celebrates its 40th anniversary. For years to come, I'll be calling games, and Quality Plumbing will continue to be the #1 plumbing company for Gator Nation.
Crystal Air and Water, we've got a winning offer for you. As you switch off the AC and turn on the heat, why not upgrade to a new system? Take advantage of our amazing financing options. You can get a 12.99 fixed rate for 5, 10, or 15 years, or you can score big with 12 months, same as cash financing. Don't fumble on comfort this season. Crystal Air and Water has you covered. Call them today at 352-333-0460 or visit acpenguin.com.
License number CMC 1249384.
Fans, don't get sacked by high prices. Join the winning team at Davis Gainesville Chevrolet. This week at Davis, score big savings on our all-star Chevy selection. The most awarded brand for new vehicle quality, like Chevy's MVP, the new Silverado, with low 2.8 financing and no payments for 90 days. Plus, we're tackling high prices on the area's best GM-certified pre-owned inventory. So join the winning team at Davis Gainesville Chevrolet on North Main Street.
Over 2 decades, Miapa has been a staple in Alachua County. Start your day right at Miapa, where fast and affordable authentic cuisine awaits.
We're known for serving the best Cuban coffee.
Our secret is in every sip and every bite, bringing the flavor of our culture straight to your palate. Everyone is welcome at Miapa Latin Cafe. Visit us at one of our locations and let us take you on a journey full of flavor. Miapa Latin Cafe, where every bite is a taste of tradition.
If you've got joint pain in your knees, shoulders, hip, or back that won't go away, you need to check out QC Kinetics for long-lasting relief. QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550.
And Silverback Concrete builds firm foundations for generations. You stand on it, we stand by it. Silverback Concrete. All right, time for our women's basketball check-in brought to you by Meldon Law. With 50 years of experience, the only accident law firm partner of the Florida Gators, Meldon Law, won't back down. Was not a good week for Florida, going to Auburn, a team which I believe only had one league win, and they put it on, I think it was 74-51. So they've got some work to do. But much like the men, we're talking LSU and Tennessee and South Carolina and Ole Miss. It's a really good league.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I think last week they had 8 teams ranked in the top 25. I watched a little bit of the Texas Ole Miss finish yesterday. Texas won, coming from behind to beat Ole Miss in Oxford. Was an interesting finish. For a couple of weeks, we talked about and wanted you to pay attention to the South Carolina LSU game. We promoted that. Well, I'm going to give you the next one because USC is 8-0 and UCLA is 7-0 in league play, and they meet twice, and the first one's on February 13th at Southern Cal. That'll put Juju Watkins against Lauren Betts. That is good stuff.
Yeah. When you look at the I don't want to say rebirth, but the popularity of women's basketball. I think it's great for the sport. I think it's great for women's basketball. You know, Caitlin Clark gets a lot of credit for that.
And she should.
And she should. But what's happened, I could remember, Mark, broadcasting women's basketball games, and it seemed like the same teams were elite. You know, Connecticut, right? Well, because of NIL, because of whatever else, it's better for the sport. There's more teams that are better.
Yeah, I think the women, I think has become, they're a little bit behind the men in terms of the expansion of parity. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
I think you still have the same 5 or 6 teams at the very top. But that next tier, which might have had 10 teams a year ago, I might have 40 now.
Right.
And I think that's the difference.
I do
is
too.
Tier 2.
I do too.
If you want to think of it in those terms.
Yes, I agree with you. Top 4 teams brought to you by Fairlife Core Power. Discover Core Power protein shakes by Fairlife. Explore our 26G and 42G high-protein drinks. Perfect for workout recovery and nutrition.
I've still got Auburn 1. I still have Duke 2. I still have Iowa State 3. And only because of the escape of the Houdini Act that Houston did on Saturday at Kansas that we talked about, I've got the Cougars as number 4.
I'll give you a little bit of a time. I'm going to ask the question and then sort of talk to give you time to sort of think about the answer.
Okay.
A lot of times in doing this, we talk about teams that are doing well, like Missouri, right? Let's flip that script, Mark. Is there a team or teams you thought start of the year, these guys are going to be pretty good, and maybe they've underperformed? And I think some of those teams of the Big Ten you mentioned may hit that category for me.
Well, I'd have to think about that because immediately what comes to mind is Arkansas in the SEC. I think what comes to mind, and of course, Boogie Flam being out now is a big blow to them.
Yeah.
I think of UAB, and I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. They really got off to a slow start, and they were expected to challenge Memphis. And I like, if you ever want to go just have an hour with somebody and laugh, go with Andy Kennedy, the head coach at UAB. One of the funniest human beings, a big fan of his. But they got waxed yesterday at Memphis. I look at some traditional teams in the ACC, like Virginia. When was the last time Virginia was this bad?
Yeah, they still can't score.
NC State, coming off the Final Four appearance from a year ago, has really struggled. I just think that, and now that we're into this conference expansion, it would only make sense that more teams would fit into that mode in terms of disappointing, because it's harder to win games now because of more teams. And yet, here's the SEC. Outside of Arkansas, who could you say has really been disappointing? But if you're asking me surprise teams, everybody's going to want to talk. I mean, surprise teams, Vanderbilt, Missouri. And I got to tell you, Georgia might be the best don't judge Georgia just based on what happened here Saturday. The win over St. John's is not going anywhere. The win over Kentucky is not going anywhere. They might be the best 2-5 league record team in the country.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll wrap up today's Hoop. There it is. Stay with us.
After you work out, you can feel worn out. Reach for core power and rise to a whole new level of recovery. Protein to build muscle. Electrolytes to help hydrate. The nutrition you need to power on. Champion your recovery with Core Power.
You might know that State Farm agent Ruz Agra has great service. He's your good neighbor after all, but did you know that State Farm has surprisingly good rates too? Yep, that's right. Along with good neighbor service, State Farm agent Ruz Agra has surprisingly great rates for everyone in Gainesville and North Central Florida. So call State Farm agent Ruz Agra at 352-240-1779 for your surprisingly great rates today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to State Farm underwriting requirements.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, two things haven't. Our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured.
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
And our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Is your bank dropping the ball, not playing with heart or skill? Then you need to check out the scouting report on Campus USA Credit Union. That's a 5-star recruit if I've ever seen one. Campus has it all, like great rates and products, friendly service, and smart game plans for you and your money. So why not put some star power in your financial life? Visit campuscu.com or any campus service center today.
Honey, can I recruit you to take the garbage out?
Silverback Concrete is a family-led team of heavy concrete specialists that builds commercial structures for contractors who expect unrivaled quality, including the head ball coach's restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grille. You only have one chance to make a building that holds up to the highest standards through all kinds of weather. Visit silverbackconcrete.co to see why they're the #1 choice in the Southeast. You stand on it, we stand by it. Silverback Concrete's got your back.
Asking you to join us at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill for our next private label release. You can add Lugo's Risky Rum to your collection of Spurrier's private label bourbon and rye whiskey on your top shelf of your liquor cabinet. So join about 125 of your friends upstairs at Visor's Rooftop Bar from 6 to 9 on January 30 for this exclusive release, featuring a special menu of delicious Spurrier menu items and the specialty rum cocktails.
At Titan MRI and Imaging, you'll visit the only locally owned and operated MRI imaging center in town. Start feeling better today. It's your choice. TitanMRI.com.
And you just saw it, but don't miss the Lugo's Barrel Select launch party this Thursday at Visors to celebrate the launch of the newest Lugo's Barrel Select here at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. And it's going to be great raffles throughout the evening featuring Spurrier's and Lugo's distillery merchandise. Tickets include one exclusive bottle of Spurrier's single barrel whiskey rum. Must be 21 plus to purchase tickets.
If only I were here.
All right, let's wrap this up here. Florida's coming off a game they maybe shouldn't have won, a game they dominated. Where do you see Florida from here?
Well, they've got some nicks and bruises like everybody else this time of the year, especially as physical as the league is. So I'm pretty sure the players are going to enjoy not having a midweek game. But then you go to Tennessee and you know what you're going to get in terms of physicality, in terms of shots that are going to be hard to come by. And on top of all that, it seems to me like 3 weeks ago you waxed Tennessee at home. So, I'm I'm making a guess here that Rick Barnes is going to remind his team about that.
You think? Yeah.
Now, Rick Barnes can't do that right yet because they have Kentucky on Tuesday. But come Wednesday, I'm pretty sure what the message will be.
You know, it's one thing beginning of the year, we talked about how good the league was going to be.
Yeah.
But now, all these teams, like you just mentioned, they're going to go through stretches where the schedule's ridiculous.
It's just brutal. We talked about, I said this on air a week ago, that Vandy, who's been a great story, is going to enter an 8-game schedule. It's just stupid bad. I mean, it's just stupid. And yet here they are with wins. On the stupid bad part, they start with wins over Kentucky and Tennessee at home. So, now you're really playing with house money. I still maintain, Steve, I think there's only one team that can win the league at 16-2, something like that. I'm going to have them Wednesday night.
And you've been on that wagon.
Yeah, I've been on that wagon for a while.
Yeah,
and Janai Broom played the other night. He obviously wasn't 100%, and he went for, 16, 11, or whatever he did.
And not 100%.
And not 100%. Yeah. So I'll see him Wednesday night at LSU, and then on the weekend I'm staying in LSU in Baton Rouge because Texas comes to town.
Okay. That's going to do it for our Hoop There It Is for today. Thanks to Zach for producing the program. We appreciate that. Don't forget, we love having you here. You can listen live or just join us whenever you get a chance to do it. We're back here next week to talk some more hoops. For Mark Wise, I'm Steve Russell. Thank you for tuning in.
We thank you for listening to Hoop There It Is with Steve Russell and ESPN's Mark Wise. Hoop There It Is, the service of Silverback Concrete, Titan MRI, and QC Kinetics. It's available for you via podcast at WRUF.com and on the WRUF radio app. Hoop There It Is, paid for by Weeby Marketing and produced by ESPN 98.1 FM, 850 AM, WRUF, the home of the Florida Gators.